This time, I will be introducing how to use the world-famous systematic thinking for factory improvement written by Professor Shigeo Shingo, focusing on how Mr. Shigehiro Nakamura NAKASIN actually used it through a picture book. As those of you who are working on improvements in manufacturing sites already know, Professor Shingo was the person who instructed Toyota on improvements when they were trying to get out of the red. As is well known in the industrial world, he was the one who inexpensively realized the single setup technique that allows one person to replace a 2-ton press die within 10 minutes. He also introduced a number of inexpensive and effective Poka-Yoke devices to the industrial world as a countermeasure against defects. NAKASIN had made many improvements using Professor Shingo's techniques, not only through his writings, but also through opportunities to meet him in person. This picture book introduces the process by which 3 people working at a hypothetical company A organized a project team to analyze what NAKASIN learned from Professor Shingo's book and explanations, in order to actually use and spread it in their own factory in order to further improve the company. So, from the picture book, I would like to explain the prohibition of death diagnosis measures, which was shown by Professor Shingo in the 1970s. This figure shows the brainstorming-style malpractice measures that were widely used in Japan at the time, but Professor Shingo rejected this initiative. The reason was that it was not a method of finding facts on the ground, and it lacked science. NAKASIN worked for 20 years in a company, and for the next 27 years, he supported improvements at JMA, and conducted a zero-defect countermeasure study group with 21 companies from different industries. As part of this activity, there was a JMA TZD study group, where they. This figure shows one of the examples featured in the picture book we are introducing today, and is an approach to improving manufacturing technology. The subject was the processing of fountain pen nibs, and the solution was to attach metal to the nib in a shape that even experienced craftsmen find difficult to achieve. Naturally, Professor Shingo is not an expert in this field. However, while observing each process in detail at the factory, he had already discovered the seeds of problem-solving in other workplaces. As a result, Professor Shingo systematized this method as a single problem-solving method. Starting with the previous example, Professor Shingo showed several methods for discovering effective improvement measures when improving or innovating manufacturing technology. Among them, this figure, which will be introduced in this series, is one example of how replacing fixed with variable can speed up problem solving. Conversely, Professor Shingo also showed an example which, looking at changing manufacturing technology from a fixed perspective, can lead to major reforms. This figure is an example of how this way of thinking can be used to solve a problem. This picture book will continue in Series 2, and he plans to introduce many more examples of this approach and improvements to manufacturing technology. Thank you very much for watching the introduction to this picture book. The above explanation is the gist of this picture book. You can also get it at this URL. Amazon Prime members can watch it for free.